all you get. It's all you get is mango juice every day for 30 days. You know, the first day it's like fantastic. I really like mango juice. Second day, third day, and you keep going on. And, you know, can I get another kind of juice along with the mango juice? No, just mango juice. That's it. So the point is, variety of rasa is part of what makes up rasa, because just this little phrase, the absolute truth is the source of everything, and the absolute truth is rasa. But what kind? Not just one kind. Unlimited, because the source of everything is unlimited. And so there's how many different types of living entities are there? I mean, not from species, too many to count. And the absolute source of rasa reciprocates with all those living entities. So within the absolute source of everything is everything. And he reciprocates, the source reciprocates with every living entity according to their favorite juice, their primary, and mixing of other rasas along with the primary rasa, secondary rasas. This is part of the topic of nectar devotion, mixing of rasas. But that mixing comes from the source. So that's a little introduction to the topic I planned to speak on. I didn't get there yet, just as a little background. So it'll help those who are a little newer to get, before you dress the deity, along with dressing the deity, there's this nice backdrop. It's matching colors with the outfits of the deities. We just did the backdrop part. Then comes the dressing of the deity. There's a nice verse. We recited this yesterday. I want to play something that's recorded. And I just want to make sure the sound system works. And I never know where it's going to come out. It may come out from my computer. It's going to come out from my computer. Look at that. Say it again.
Bhajanamatulam dushkaram shunvato me Nairyasena jvalati hrudayam bhakti leshalasasya Nairyasena jvalati hrudayam bhakti leshalasasya Vishvatrichim agahara tava karnya karunya vichim Vishvatrichim agahara tava karnya karunya vichim agahara tava karnya karunya vichim Vishvatrichim
is a collection of prayers. Stava means prayers. And it's collected in a gathering he calls is a collection of prayers. Stava means it's gathering he calls a string, a garland of prayers. And in this particular prayer, it mentions Aghasura, and the prayer says that he, when Krishna killed Aghasura, he delivered him to the spiritual world. He came, Aghasura, we're going to narrate the pastime. Aghasura came to kill Krishna, and Krishna killed him and sent him to the spiritual world. That's mercy. That's mercy. And that mercy, the downpour of mercy that Krishna provides, it's like waves and waves, and some of the waves splatter and splash, and some of the drops of that mercy hit Rupa Goswami, and he feels some hope. Because the first half of the prayer, stava, is expressions of humility. I'm going to read the translation. I am very weak and lazy to do even the smallest devotional service. And so, when I hear of the peerless and difficult to perform services performed by great devotees in ancient times, my heart burns with despair, meaning, I'm not qualified. How can I get engaged in devotional service because I'm so unqualified? But there's hope. Oh Lord, O killer of Aghasura, when I hear that your waves of mercy splash everyone, from the demigod Brahma down to the most insignificant creature, then my heart becomes sprinkled with a cooling drop of hope. Mercy, a drop of mercy is sufficient for giving one hope, although we're not so qualified. Who can be qualified? If Rupa Goswami is feeling like that, what about us? So yesterday we covered the first 3 verses of chapter 12. Canto 10, chapter 12 is about Krishna meeting face to face and dealing with Aghasura, demon. Asura means demon. His name was Agha. You know what Agha means? Agha means sin. Mom and dad called their son Agha. And Agha had a brother and a sister. He was the younger, and his older son, Agha. And Agha, sister, that Krishna killed was a female, and her name was Putana. Putana was the sister of Agha. And Krishna very mercifully gave Putana the liberation of becoming situated in the spiritual world, assisting Mother Jasoda in Goloka Vrindavan as a maid servant or a female nurse in the spiritual sky. She came to kill him. And Baka was the brother of Agha. Baka also came to kill Krishna, sent by Kamsa. Bad, evil Kamsa wanted to kill Krishna. So Baka was his henchman. And Baka was also killed. And he was also delivered by Krishna. All the personalities, this is one of the features of Krishna. When he deals with demons, he finishes their material existence. He brings them to the spiritual platform. All their sins and tendencies for further sin are removed, and that leaves them ready to enter the spiritual world. It says specifically about Baka that he achieved Sarupya Mukti. Sarupya means he achieved a form like the Lord's. Sarupya. He achieved a form like the Lord. So next comes Agha. So in his next 7 verses, it's description of what the cowherd boys did. The first 3 verses, there was the preparation. They were getting ready to go out to count. These are boys that are 4 years, 4 months, roughly the same age. That's how old Krishna was, and they're roughly the same age. And there's hundreds of thousands. There's so many cowherd boys. And they're all herding calves. So off they go. Krishna called them with his buffalo horn. They got ready, and they assembled all their calves, because young boys are herding the calves. And now this is what they did. Let's play. Starting with verse number 4. Although all these boys were already decorated by their mothers with ornaments of kacha, gunja, pearls, and gold, when they went into the forest, they further decorated themselves with fruits, green leaves, bunches of flowers, peacock feathers, and soft minerals. Now, along with the narration from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 12, there's commentary. One of those commentaries is one written by Jiva Goswami called Gopal Champu. And these two persons, left and right, one is the narrator and the one who's asking questions. Snigdhakanta Madhukanta. So the answerer says, though the boys were beautiful because of the jewels as they entered the forest, they ornamented their bodies with fruits and buds from the trees and used a multitude of glass beads brought in packets from their houses after much pleading. Absorbed in playing, they did not consider that one thing was better than another. No, boys will be boys. Only the miser, thinking of expense, sees with a critical eye. The carefree person, not considering expense, becomes joyful with what is pleasing. That's verse number 4. It says that 7 is their playfulness. 7 verses. All the cowherd boys used to steal one another's lunch bags. When a boy came to understand that his bag had been taken away, the other boys would throw it farther away to a more distant place, and those standing there would throw it still farther. When the proprietor of the bag became disappointed, the other boys would laugh. The proprietor would cry, and then the bag would be returned. Boys play. It wasn't like malicious. It's just playful, playful, playful. They stole each other's sticks. This is Gopal Champu again. Flutes and lunches. Considering it their own, they would throw the item far away. They would then bring the item back and offer it. They all engage in suitable actions by the quick movements of Krishna's brow at every second, and knew nothing else. Although they're playful amongst themselves, Krishna was the center of their playfulness, because he's the center, and they weren't seeing him as the supreme. What was that all about? Krishna is the center. For those who are in the mood of awe and reverence towards the Supreme, he's at the center. For the Brijbasis, it's out of love only. They don't see him as the Supreme anything. It's love, and their love is over the top. They have such love for him, there's nothing more meaningful to him than their love. And so everyone aligns with their object of love, and they all have the same object of love. They knew nothing else out of the sweetness of loving exchange. Text number 6. Sometimes Krishna would go to a somewhat distant place to see the beauty of the forest. Then all the other boys would run to accompany him, each one saying, I shall be the first to run and touch Krishna. I shall touch Krishna first. In this way, They enjoyed life by repeatedly touching Krishna. Now this particular painting is showing one devotee, one of the cowherd boys. Actually, he's not a cowherd boy. He's a friend of Krishna named Madhu Mangal, and he's got a shaved head. All the other boys have hair. Madhu Mangal was a Brahmana's son, or Brahmani's son. And he was a dear friend of Krishna, and he was often the brunt of jokes. So in this case, Krishna snatched his lunch bag, and the Madhu Mangal said, "Bring my lunch bag back. I'm a Brahmana. I'll curse you. Bring your lunch bag back." And Krishna just laughed, playful, and tossed the lunch bag to somebody else. And you see the boys, they're clapping, and they're enjoying the fun. It's playfulness. Krishna sent all the boys ahead to look for the calves, and then went off, far off, to see the beauty of the forest. They could not see him, but they ran towards him, and by his fragrance, saying, "I will catch him first," having such pride, they felt great bliss. So not even by sight, by the fragrance of Krishna's body was very special. Though the boys were pure, they displayed pride to give pleasure to Krishna, as if a worldly kind of pride, or one thinks oneself special. They didn't think like that. They just wanted that Krishna would be pleased, and the more that Krishna is pleased, that's their happiness. And the more that they're striving for Krishna's happiness, Krishna would become happy, and it just kept crescendoing it this way. So attached to Krishna's company were the cowherd little son that they acted just like his shadow. If, this is now a reference from Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Some of you in the room may know, some of you may not know. What's that? It's another commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. This one written by Sanatana Goswami. So reference is made in Sanatana Goswami's Brihat Bhagavatamrita. If, even for a moment, they couldn't see him, if he sometimes went away on a whim, they were filled with distress, and when he returned, they would rejoice and rush to touch him. Same pastime, just a commentary on the pastime. You know, it's a nice pastime. You can see in the painting, they would play a game called Blind Man's Bluff. Kids, I knew that game from when we were kids. Someone is, they put a blindfold on, and they're with their blindfold on. They're supposed to find who are the other people in the group. So here, one boy is blindfolding Krishna. While they're blindfolding Krishna, the cowherd boys are scattering. One climbed a tree, the other ran this way, the other's hiding behind a tree trunk, and then Krishna's supposed to find them blindfolded. It's playfulness of young boys in the forest. Those were 7 verses. Now comes the next set of verses. All the boys would be differently engaged. Some boys would blow their flutes, and others blew bugles made of horn. Some imitated the buzzing of the bumblebees, and others imitated the voice of the cuckoo. Some boys imitated the flying birds. You see one boy on the left. He's imitating a bird ready to take flight. Running after the bird's shadows on the ground. Some imitated the beautiful movements and attractive postures of the swans. That's the fellow on the right. Looks like Balaram. Some sat down with the ducks, sitting silently, and the others imitated the dancing of the peacocks. Some boys attracted young monkeys in the trees. Some jumped into the trees, imitating the monkeys. Some made faces, as the monkeys were accustomed to do, and others jumped from one branch to another. The idea should be clear. It's just playfulness. Some boys went to the waterfalls and crossed over the river, jumping with the frogs. And when they saw their own reflections in the water, they would laugh. They would also condemn the sounds of their own echoes. So they would say something, and they would hear an echo coming back, and they'd laugh and say another something, and the echo would come. They're just playful boys. In this way, all the cowherd boys used to play with Krishna, who is the source of the Brahman effulgence for the Gyanis, desiring to merge into that effulgence, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the devotees who have accepted eternal servitorship, and who for the ordinary persons is but an ordinary child. This is Krishna showing his dazzling effulgence, but behind the dazzling effulgence is the person. There's a very nice B.G. Sharma painting. They would sometimes have lunch, and during lunch they would still be playing, with Krishna, of course, in the center. Then comes this very celebrated verse. I like this. Well, you'll all like this verse. If you haven't heard it 100 times, hear it 100 more times. The cowherd boys, having accumulated the results of pious activities from many lives, were able to associate in this way with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can one explain their great fortune? This is a pastime of Krishna jumping over one of the cowherd boys, leapfrog. So that Sanskrit phrase, you'll see it shortly, the Sanskrit of the verse, Krita Punya Punja. Punya means piety, but it's not the piety of feeding the poor and opening hospitals and healing the sick or something. That's punya, helping a little old lady across the street. It's transcendental, not material piety. So here's the verse. I'll say the verse, and if you like, you can repeat it after I say it. Etam satam brahmasukam nabrutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatena maya shatanam naradarakena sakam vrijaru krita punya punja. Now, notice it's color-coded. So we're going at the plan. Each one of the words in color, we're going to explore a little bit with the assistance of our acharyas. The first word is satam. And satam has the following. There are three types of people. Commentary. The three types of people include Gyanis, Bhaktas, and Karmis. So let's hear about those satam. Satam refers to those who have manifested the state of sat, of their highest swarup, or those who have the quality of sat because of closeness to Brahman. In either case, it refers to Gyanis. Sat means truth, like Om Tat Sat. Sat means truth. So the Gyanis, by various means, they are aspiring to contact Sat, or Brahman, that which exists, Sat, truth. That's referring to the Gyanis. The inhabitants of Braja played with Krishna, who is knowledge and happiness of Brahman for the Gyanis. So the Gyanis don't have the opportunity to play with Krishna. They can know of the eternality feature of the Supreme, but they're not so qualified to play with the Supreme. And a little education. I hope you like a little education, because I'm going to do it. There's two terms, and it's good to know the distinction between these two terms, Mayavadis and Brahmavadis. Both have focus on Brahman, that feature of the Supreme. But the distinction is the Brahmavadis are not offensive. They simply have a fascination, an attraction for the Sat feature, or the Brahman feature, aspect of the Supreme. They're not offensive. The Mayavadis are offensive. How are they offensive? They're offensive by saying that Krishna, who is Bhagavan, they don't say Krishna is Bhagavan. They say Krishna is Brahman, you're Brahman, I'm Brahman. And as we are covered by Maya, Krishna is covered by Maya. And beyond the covering of Maya is Brahman. So the gnat cross a little line to do the addition of subtraction. What it gets is, I'm Krishna and you are Krishna. Or I am Brahman, you are Brahman, because all that the body is, this body, that body, the other body, Krishna's body, it's Maya anyways. That's called Mayavadi. Krishna is the personality of Krishna, the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the diversity is Krishna. It's just Maya, because all there is Brahman. As a philosophized, not an experienced, there's a distinction. Those who are offenders don't experience transcendence, because they're offenders. They're barred from that experience. There are those that aren't offenders. They just have a profound fascination for Brahman. And they have Brahman realization, and they experience Brahma Sukh, or the happiness of Brahman. Mayavadis don't have that. They follow, at least the proper ones, they follow rules and regulations and do's and do nots, and they follow procedures in order to detach themselves from Maya, because Maya is false. Brahman Satya, Brahman is Satya, is truth, but Jagat is Mithya, or false. Just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's just false. And Krishna's form is also false. That's offensive. That's the Mayavadi's position. The word Sat cannot apply to those Gyanis who think the body of Krishna and form of Krishna as material. The Gyanis, the Brahmavadis, have realization of Krishna as Brahman, but they cannot play with him. That's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commenting. I hope you can follow all that. It's, in one sense, it's a detail, but in another sense, it's very fundamental. There are persons that have an attraction for Sat, or for Brahman, that are offenders, and some that aren't. And they actually get some happiness, or Brahma Sukh, transcendental happiness. Brahma Sukhananritya. Anubhuti means the self-manifesting substance whose correlative or natural related is dull matter. What does that mean? Anubhuti. Anubhuti, something that's self-manifesting. Anubhuti, something that's self-manifesting. So there's the living entity, and there's matter. And both are, where do they manifest from? living entity is Prakriti, para Prakriti, and matter is apara Prakriti, or inferior Prakriti. And both are manifest from the source of everything. For those of you that came in a little bit late, that's, our topic is the absolute truth. And the absolute truth is that which is the source of everything. So the source of everything is that from which everything comes. We discussed this. And Krishna is the personality of the absolute truth. And one of the things that comes from the source of everything is Brahman. And those that have realization of Brahman, they have a Brahman happiness, Brahma Sukha. Brahma Sukha, Anubhutya, Anubhuti. Here it is called Brahman, the greatest, since it is the highest swarup for all the Brahmavadi Gyanis, by appearing only in that form for them. So what does this mean? It means, I'm supposing I'm not a devotee, I'm this Brahmavadi person. I went to school, and I learned about Brahman in school, and I really, really, really like, and I follow some standards and practices, and I come to the stage where I no longer identify with the covering and identify with Brahman. And there's a happiness. It's called Brahma Sukha. It's a positive happiness. And it's a real happiness. The happiness of Brahman is a real happiness. It's not calling Krishna a covered feature. It's just, or the living entity. It's what is, Sat. And knowing what is, there's a kind of happiness where I no longer identify with illusion. Now, this one verse is describing how fortunate the cowherd boys are, because they, unlike the Gyanis that are experiencing Brahma Sukha, they're playing with the person who's the source of that Brahma Sukha. I hope you can follow all this. It's a very nice verse. And when I finish this verse, I think I'm just going to end, because there may be some questions. He was easily realized, Sukhanu Bhrutya, as Atma Tattva, or Brahman, by the liberated, who exist in a state of mere existence, Satam. They consider that is the highest goal. So for such persons, the Brahmavadi, that's it. There's nothing beyond it. And the it is Brahman. And the it, knowing it, or Brahmagyan, gives Brahma Sukha. And that's it. End of story. And the verse, Sukadeva Goswami is saying, those, while they're transcendentalists, they can't play with Krishna. They don't have that happiness. They don't have that access, just because of their disposition. For the devotees, he was Bhagavan, the form of happiness, or prema bhakti, most worthy of worship. So that's the first part of the verse. Then comes dasyam gatanam. You remember the verse. Dasyam gatanam. Dasyam gatanam refers to all the genuine devotees other than the inhabitants of Braja who see Krishna as their worshipable Lord. In other words, in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual sky, there's different states of consciousness. One of those states of consciousness is Vaikuntha, where with opulence and veneration we're looking up to the all opulent supreme personality of Godhead, who has all opulences in full, and we're little sparks looking up to the source of us and everything. So there's an honorific mood in Vaikuntha. But the residents in Vrindavan don't have that kind of mood. They see Krishna as their lovable friend or lovable companion or their lovable son. The Dasya Bhaktas worship Krishna in reverence, but they are not qualified to play with Krishna. In Vaikuntha, there's no playing with Krishna because there's no childhood form. He's just Vishnu in his Vishnu form, or Narayana in his adult form. But there's no Dasya Bhakta in Vaikuntha. For devotees with Dasya Bhakti, he appears the most worshipable deity full of powers, as this little painting is illustrating. There's the lotus feet, and as at the feet of the lotus, at the base of lotus feet, offering prayers in reverence and respect. But the residents of Vrindavan, these cowherd boys, they play with Krishna, they wrestle with Krishna, they defeat Krishna in wrestling. And Krishna then has to carry them on his shoulders because they defeated Krishna. It's one of their childhood games. Maya Shatanam, those are the materialists, those who want happiness from material existence. They see Krishna as a ordinary person, Nara Dharakena. The karmis have no realization of Krishna, nor worship, since they have no respect for him. So what to speak of playing with him? Those who are covered by Maya think of Krishna as a human child, since they have no gyan or bhakti. The boys did not play with Krishna in that form. The boys played with Krishna, who gave them his association because he was controlled by their prema. This is a nice painting. One of the games of the boys was, it's lunchtime, and they would ask Krishna to close his eyes, and they'd give some food item, and he's supposed to chew it and to tell them without looking, what is it? So one of the boys is putting a flower in Krishna's mouth. And they're all giggling because what's Krishna going to say? And just playful. That's the cowherd boys. Krita punya punja. So that's how the phrase ends. Maya shatanam naradarakena. Taken in another sense, Maya shatanam refers to Krishna's beloved gopis, who worshipped the goddess Maya with choice mantras. What's that reference? As many of you know, some of you may not know, the young gopis, when they're just young girls, there was a procedure that was common. If they had a desire to marry a particular young man, they would worship a form of Maya or Katyayani, because they were village girls. They couldn't afford a deity, so they made a deity of mud. You know, the earth from the bank of the Ganges, or excuse me, the Jamuna, and water. You mix water and earth, you get mud. So they formed a deity and then decorated the deity and worshipped the deity of Katyayani. And the prayers that they offered to Katyayani was, we want Krishna as our husband. It's quite a scene. They were not envious of each other. They all wanted Krishna as their husband. They're offering together. They're offering the same prayers to the same goddess to have the same husband. No envy. Such a thing doesn't exist in the material world, by the way. But in the spiritual world, there's no envy. What would that be like, huh? No envy? No envy? And Krishna is our beloved. So that's one of the meanings of this phrase. For the gopis who served Katyayani with great faith to attain Krishna, he appeared as a beautiful human child. As you see in the painting, down on the lower left, that's the Murti of Katyayani, and then the gopis in the coldest month, the month of Magh, coldest month, January, in Vrindavan, they would bathe in the Jamuna before the sun came up, freezing cold. And they left their clothing on the bank of the river, Jamuna. Krishna came where they hung their clothes. And knowing that they were worshipping him to become their husband, he came and took their clothes. It's a childhood pastime to reciprocate their loving dealings. He appeared in this way to them because of their great prema. He appeared as happiness for the groups of women, Nara, Dara. Then finally, Krita Punya Punja, this is the verse. This is just one verse, but it's taking a lot because it's such an important verse. The Vrajvasis played with him. Though he is complete in bliss, they gave him more intense bliss in the pastimes of prema. And they also attained remarkable bliss in all ways. Therefore, more than all others, they were fortunate. Krita Punya. Here, punya can only mean activities pleasing to the Lord and not material piety. That was mentioned already. So you see the painting. The cowherd boys are piling on top of each other so Krishna can reach the place where the butter and yogurt and dairy products were stored up in the ceiling because, ants and other living entities can't get up there. So that's how the adults put the dairy products. But the boys knew how to get. They put Krishna on someone's back, and Krishna then spilled it all. And then they received it and fed the monkeys. I'm going to end with this particular verse. This particular verse is from Canto 10, chapter 43. And it's the section describing Krishna having entered into Mathura. He left Vrindavan, carried on the chariot of Akrura to Mathura. And the plan that Kamsa had is that he would kill Krishna personally. But before his killing Krishna personally, there was an attempt of having a wild, intoxicated elephant stampede and kill Krishna. And then the wrestlers would kill Krishna, because Krishna, at this time, he's just under 11 years of age. And these wrestlers are these big, powerful guys. Big, powerful guys. And a little 10, 11-year-old boy, there's no match. But Krishna had just killed the wild elephant, Kuvalyapita, and broke off his tusks. And he was Krishna was carrying one elephant tusk over his shoulder with blood on the other end, where they yanked it out of his body. Balaram had the other one over his shoulder, and they strolled into the wrestling arena, ready for combat. And so this verse is how everybody saw him, same person, in a different way. One entity having a relationship with everyone in a different way. Shh. Mataji, if your daughter can't be quiet, you can take her to another room. I think that's a good idea. She wants a little attention. We'll see you later, maybe in a few years. Okay. The various groups of people in the arena, this is the wrestling arena, regarded Krishna in different ways when he entered it with his elder brother. The wrestlers, Chanur and Mushtaka, the two principal, and then they had three brothers. The wrestlers saw Krishna as lightning bolt. The men of Mathura as the best of males. The women as Cupid in person. The cowherd man as their relative. The impious rulers as a chastiser. His parents, of course his parents were in prison still, as their child. The king of the Bojas, that's Kamsa, as death. The unintelligent as the Supreme Lord's universal form. The yogis as the absolute truth. And the Vrishnis, that's the royal dynasty members, as their supreme worshipable deity. And the cowherd boys didn't see any of those. They just saw him with love and affection, heaps and heaps of love and affection. Here's Prabhupada speaking about this pastime in a morning walk in Bombay. These boys, these cowherd boys, they have accumulated krita, punya, punja, heaps of pious activities. Therefore, they are now allowed to play with Krishna. Krita, punya, punja. Anyone who's heard recorded lectures of Prabhupada, you know this phrase because he would say it over and over and over. And so just those three words meant so much, because he would say it again and then expand the meaning and put it back together again. After many, many lives, pious activities, they have come to this position, Krita Punya Punja, to understand Krishna and to engage in the service of the Lord. It requires a qualification. Yesham Twantakatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam. Jananam. Again, a conversation, morning walk in Bombay. Punya Karma. Those who are simply, this is the highest Punya Karma, to engage one's life, activities, only for the service of Krishna. That is the greatest Punya Karma. And another Prabhupada statement, this time in Vrindavan. Therefore, we forbid our students no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, because these are the pillars of sinful life. We have to give up those things to accelerate our promotion to the devotional service. We cannot go on doing this and that at the same time. It is something like that. You ignite fire and pour water, it will be a useless attempt. If you want to burn the fire blazing, don't put water on it. Keep it dry. Yesham Twantakatam Papam. Jiva Goswami also speaks. They had accrued heaps of piety. This is a mundane statement. Actually, they had piles of pure splendor, punya, caused by the highest mercy of the Lord, who performs pastimes, krita. Amarakosh, that's a dictionary, says punya means splendor, or charu. They're pretty as friends, with no restriction of reverence, expands at every moment because of its lack of restriction and its special nature with fullness. Krishna's heart responds to that, and accordingly his friends realize the exceptional sweetness of his form, qualities, and astounding pastimes. Astonishing. What more can be said? Jiva Goswami writes, and we're going to end here. Like churning the ocean to get nectar, such intimate love produces the highest sweetness and control of Krishna because of their sweet love. This is not seen in the Jnani or the devotee with reverence. So, in summary, thank all of you for coming. This is a pretty packed temple room for a Sunday program. Thank you all for coming and participating. I had a plan. I'd gone past time already. I had a plan to, during this visit, discuss one of Krishna's pastimes, one chapter in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And this particular one is the killing of Aghasura, but it's done, first of all, appreciating the scene. The scene is the playfulness of the cowherd boys. And in this playfulness of the cowherd boys, the scene is set, and in comes this giant demon with the intent to kill all the cowherd boys and to kill Krishna. Like shock. But the boys are in such a mood of playfulness, they're not worried at all, because Krishna will protect them. Krishna has always protected them. And it's just a playground, just this giant serpent-like. So we're going to be discussing that this evening, and then again tomorrow evening to finish the chapter. So all of this is just a sharing of the mood of Krishna in Vrindavan. And the mood is a mood of sweetness. There's opulence, there's his divinity, but the residents of Vrindavan don't see that. Even when he displays it, they don't see it. They see something else. How nice. It's something. Because the sweetness is so strong, it eclipses the Aishvarya, the majesty of Krishna. It feels like the sun, and there's an eclipse of the sun. Something gets in the way, and you can't see because it's eclipsed. Similarly, the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan is so strong, it eclipses his opulence. He has it. He sometimes displays it, and then withdraws it, and then it's just sweetness. It's just sweetness. And to understand Krishna is to understand how he does what he does. And he reciprocates with different personalities according to their regard for him. Exactly as it says in Bhagavad Gita, Yeyatam mam prapadyante tang sadaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmana vartante mrityu samsara vartmani. Krishna, as someone regards Krishna, he reciprocates. He's independent. And what's his limit? There's no limit. There's no limit to the unlimited. So he can reciprocate, and he does reciprocate with everyone. Us, assembled in this temple room, and everybody out there and all around town, and all around the universe. It's life, there's material, and then there's the quasi-spiritual, and there's the satam, those that have some realization of Brahman. And then there's the spiritual associates of Krishna. And there are different levels. And he's reciprocating with everyone in different ways because he's the source of everything. And it's nice to appreciate the source of everything, simultaneous with the sweetness, to have some understanding of, wow, Krishna is very, very, very special. I should give myself in service to this very, very special source of everything personality. I'm looking at the clock. I've gone 20 minutes over time. So I'm going to abruptly end. Normally it's nice to have questions and answers, but I talk too much. So I'm going to end so we can go on to the next. Earlier this week, there was the disappearance day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. My understanding is we're going to have an arti for Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yes? Okay. So thank you again. Thank you all for coming. Let's move to the next activity. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki. Gaur Premanandi. Can I put my computer away? Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hey. Nitai Gauranga. I'm supposed to do the Pushpanjali.